Hey family, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Whatever side of the diaspora that you are on, welcome, welcome, welcome to the Mental House. I am your host, Khadijah. First of all, I want to give my condolences to Philando Castile and the Alton Sterling family for the brutal murder um, and by race soldiers. I really want to acknowledge you and your sorrow and your sympathy. I give you my sympathy because I do know what it feels like to have a family member killed by law enforcement. I also have law enforcement in my immediate family, so I know what it feels like to be on both sides. But today my heart is heavy and my love go to you. I keep regurgitating over and over again that you can only operate off of two principles, and it's either love or fear. I didn't understand that at first, and I always got to check myself and to see if I'm operating off of love or fear. Love or fear. Um, and the main reason that I'm making this video, because it really irks me when people that are my age um, say things so egregious, that, and they get away with it. I have to come and check them for their ignorance, and I have to come and check them for just being ridiculous and not a good representation of black people, because we already have a hard enough situation trying to deal with white supremacy and the constructs of it. And so, for people like her, Stacey Dash, Charles Barkley, Stephen A. Smith, those type of people to say are quick to blame victims and not even give any credence to the construct of white supremacy, they have no respect for me. They have no respect. If they're ignorant and you shed light on them and give them the facts and they continue to think that way, then you already know that you're dealing with supreme narcissists. And this is why narcissism was taken out the DSM, because guess what? They know the whole country is crazy. They know it was built on craziness. So, but that's part two. I want to address Wendy Williams and her disrespect of just what she said after Jesse Williams' speech after the BET Awards, because this is going to lead into some other things. She said, "I must say to you, he was on BET. His speech was very poignant. Um, on the other hand, I would really be offended if there was a school that was known as a historically white college. We have historically black colleges. What if there was a national organization for white people only? There's the NAACP. Now, for someone who was over a half a century years old to say something that disgusting and that ignorant, it has to be addressed. So I'm going at her first. First of all, Wendy, the NAACP was started by white people. In case you didn't know that, I'm telling you now. Mary White Overton, she's the founder. Moorfield Story, he's the first president. Joel Spingham, second president. And the same guy that founded the ACLU later on, his name was John Dewey. Okay? That's who started the NAACP. People that set up an organizations, philanthropists that understood we were we was catching hell, and they decided to start an organization for black people, the advancement of colored people. Okay, now you're too old not to know that. Second of all, HBC as you say, what if there was no what if there was a national organization for white people only? Whoa, are you serious? Are you serious? I'm not even going to talk about all the countless country clubs right now today that black people are not allowed to go to. I'm not even going to talk about, unless they have an honorary a black person that they want in. Black men are not members of country clubs, or like maybe an honorary member if one of their white buddies bring them in. And what do you think the Ku Klux Klan was? The Ku Klux Klan was. That was a very historically white organization that had and still has today members in politics, and that were infiltrated the Senate, the Congress, and everywhere. It's just that when they would go home, they would put the sheets on. And you have the nerve to say something so insane. I can't even believe you would say something like that. And to your stupid response to that, let me try to stay calm because that's what's very important. HBCUs, Wendy, were actually invented in 1837, 26 years before the end of slavery, sweetheart. Richard Humphreys, a Quaker philanthropist, founded the Institution for Colored Youth to train free blacks to become teachers. That eventually became Cheney University, and by 1902, at least 85 schools were set up by other white philanthropists, free blacks, states, or churches to educate sons and daughters of former slaves. Okay. Just so you know, white philanthropists help black people set up HBCUs. White people set up HBCUs. You understand that? We are living in a matrix of white supremacy. Either you get it or you don't. And the only reason white supremacy can work is because of your fears. Okay? The fear that the black gene is dominant and the white gene is recessive is the number one catalyst, the number one fuel to white supremacy. I don't care what anybody says. You can't go from modern day police departments who have evolved from the slave catchers and the night patrollers and think that these are really different entities. They've evolved. Because the construct is white supremacy, which is fear. You know, Thomas Jefferson had a fear that when he looked around and he saw how black the plantation was getting, even when he was raping Sally and every child that came out was not white, they were brown. They begin to understand that this is not what we think. You know? And to me, Wendy, for somebody as old as you, again, to not know something like who started the NAACP or who's responsible for HBCUs, I mean, I think that's a travesty. Because you and people like Stacey Dash, you know, y'all should be held accountable. And black people should really stop supporting you unless you're going to be accurate and properly represent us. We're going to have to do something about you, because people like you help white supremacy stay in motion. Okay? America is narcissism personified. That's why I was taking out the DSM, because, again, they realize that this is a country full of narcissists. First of all, how can you slaughter, steal, slaughter the natives and put them on reservations? How can you have free labor for hundreds of years to build yourself into empire, the biggest, strongest empire in only a period of 400 years, when you got civilizations that are 1,000 years old? There was once a time when black people ruled, when white folks were in caves in Europe. I mean, this is all factual. And the problem is the mass ignorant on the planet. Race is a construct. But I would have to be out of my mind to not acknowledge that the powers that be, the supremacists, are taking that construct and allowing us to be manipulated more and more and more and more and more. And we can only operate out of fear when you're dealing with white supremacy. You can't understand. You won't even entertain the fact. Those of you who are white supremacists who go on and say make America what she should be and take it back to what she was, well then you would have to go back to the caves, because America, what it was not when you weren't here. And so you have a history of killing brown, black, and red people. This is your history because you are afraid of them. Because you realize that just with the stroke of the penis, they can wipe you out. Right? So you have to annihilate. Don't even talk about us, all of the black individuals who have been downloaded with the virus of white supremacy and white, Stockholm syndrome type. They just want to do anything to please you. So as a lay black person, you have to look out for them. You know you live under the construct of white supremacy. Then you have to look out for the race soldiers. Then the zombies who have been trained to hate themselves, to fear themselves. And the hatred that they have for the oppressor has been internalized and projected onto themselves. And then that's why you have black people killing each other. It's for a different, in my opinion, it's for a different stimulus, or for a different catalyst than when a Chinese person kills itself. A Chinese person doesn't actually kill, has not been trained to kill himself. To hate itself. Black people were trained to hate anything black. That's why you had Jesus painted white and all these things in the church. All of these are brain fucks for white supremacy to plant his garden into your brain. So if you're not willing to even admit that as a white person, I know you're not my friend. I know that we have nothing in common, because the first thing you have to admit is you have to understand that every time someone brings up this and then people say you playing the race card, well, if a country was built on race, how? That's a brain screw again. You don't want me to talk about what has affected me in my everyday life that won't allow me to be a human being. It's one thing to go, and it's another thing to sit back and know by virtue of the color of your skin that your sons, your husbands, your uncles, your brothers, your nephews are in jeopardy of being shot down just by virtue of their skin. Let alone if they're doing any kind of, mischievous behavior. They don't have to be doing that. They can be a routine traffic stop. And in fact, most white supremacists or even Caucasian people in general wouldn't even take this if this were black officers shooting down white people in this capacity. And my white friends that get it, they have a spirit of John Brown. The ones that don't get it and don't have that spirit of John Brown, because I'm telling you, I went to jail with white folk. All right? So those of us that don't have that spirit, those of them that don't have that spirit, I know they're a race soldier. I know that there are police officers who have actually tried to bring some sort of balance to a police department that they saw outwardly perpetuating racist and racism tactics, and those officers were held in contempt, and now they don't know if they're going to be shot down by their own partner, like a Serpico type of situation, where you see the corruption and you see and you want to disengage, but they ask you, does your blood bleed black or does it bleed blue? And you're like, well, what the hell? You mean I have to remain silent when I see you shoot somebody down, or like what happened to Rodney King? When none of those officers decided to mention anything in their reports about them beating the hell out of a black guy? Because that's the culture. We as black people have to understand we are a conquered people. We don't want to admit that. We have been brought over here for the food for white supremacy. Now the only way we're going to get out of this, the only way, is to continue to try to chop down white supremacy, recognize it for what it is, know that it permeates every area of our lives, like Dr. Francis Crest said: education, entertainment, economics, politics, religion, sex, war, sports. Those are the areas that white supremacy is in all of it. Okay? It's all controlled by supremacists that are withholding information, want you to remain silent, want you to keep the programming that they've downloaded in your mind, what is nothing but lies, because historically nothing fits into what the white supremacist construct is when you have civilizations that are thousands and thousands and thousands of years old before you even knew it was a white man. Their own scholars, Leakey and Mendel, have acknowledged that the first person on the planet was a black woman, Lucy. So we don't have to try to prove who we are. We don't have to do that. What we do have to understand is the more we begin to use ourselves and operate out of fear as opposed to love, that's where you have to see the dynamic. Yet I still understand that there's a dynamic involved in everybody that has fight or flight, and we can't keep running. And I understand that to a lot of people, they would prefer that we keep running. But I just contend to say that the bad race soldiers that are shooting us down, they have families. They go home at night. They have lives. And so when they take that uniform off, they should be treated just as the race soldiers that they are. And that's the fight that we have to have in our brain. Because clearly people that are shooting us down out of fear have to be eliminated themselves. You can only fight back in so many ways. You decide which way you're going to fight back. But white supremacy is a disease. It's a mental illness. White supremacy is the master of all narcissistic behaviors. They want you to eliminate everything that you know to be true. It's okay for them to have had free labor, to have raped and robbed and stole people and had them work from sunup to sundown for hundreds of years for free and build an empire again, and not share any of the wealth with the natives or the people that you have actually slaughtered to put yourself in this position. Okay? So as black people, we have to understand that we have a lot of work to do. We have to understand that we are the target group. And I know that doesn't sound good, but this is what we got to start in our homes teaching. We got to take the emotion out of this and understand that we are at war, and strategies are needed in order to fight this system of white supremacy. The ones that get it, they get it. Remember, I'm from the city of Father Grappi. So the ones that get it, they get it. The ones that don't, that won't put their life on the line, they don't. And they're race soldiers. And you have to treat them as such as well. Okay? So, I hope that what I said today makes some sense to somebody somewhere. And we can't just keep letting the outer society cause us to react. Although I know this is insanity with us being killed. Citizens poor because the police are just out of control. The race soldiers and the police, because they're shooting white women and white men as well. It's just that they are shooting us in an enormous amount of rape, because we are the group that can be suspended, because we multiply so much, and we've been deemed the slave, and they've never had any consequences for doing whatever they've done to us. They've always killed us with impunity, okay, and they're gonna keep doing it. So, with that being said, I hope that y'all can get at Wendy, because Wendy is too old to make the kind of statements that she makes. It's not doing the younger people any bit of good. Thank you for listening. I appreciate it. Y'all have a good day. Bye bye.